Hello, everyone. Okay, so for those of you that don't know me, I'm Jackie. This is my first time for the year that I'm coming in and doing this. And normally you would have seen me at the end of last year doing a little bit of an end of year review and just highlighting on a few important bits and pieces that I would give to my community. And I have to tell you, when I sat with all that at the end of last year, it just didn't feel right for me to do that. There was so much going on. There were so many people also feeling like they needed to speak up and speak out and share things. And I was loving some of what was going out. Some of it just seemed too fluffy to me. And when I sat with it, I felt like I didn't need to contribute to all the noise that was already getting created. So I went into my quiet place with it. Now we're on the other side of this. We're entering a new orbit. And I want to remind you that at any time you can reset, right? I already know that there are some clients of mine that have gone, oh my gosh, I don't feel like I started the year in the way that I should have. There's that word, should. Can't stand that word, should, right? Because it kind of says like you could have done better, or I could have done better. I didn't do it right. So at any opportunity you can eliminate that word should, then I would absolutely do that. Yeah, I think it's very easy to look at what other people are doing and compare yourself to that and think, oh my gosh, they did an amazing start of the year ceremony, or that list that they made was really cool, or they sound really motivated, and compare yourself to that. And then think that you should have done something better or something different. And that's not the case, because everybody's journey is so unique and it's so different. I would never, ever, ever recommend, nor have I ever recommended, that somebody do the same thing as everybody else. There's no one shoe size that fits all. We know this, right? So stop comparing yourself. And if you feel like that for whatever reason you missed the boat at the start of the year and you feel like you weren't in as alignment with where you wanted to be or how you wanted to be feeling or thinking or whatever it was, you can reset at any time. At any time. I don't care whether it's today or whether you find yourself in next Wednesday evening at 10 p.m. or whether it's April or June or September the 17th or whatever it is. At any point, you can reset your entire life. You can decide, this is the first day for the rest of my life. This is the first hour for the rest of my life. This is the first minute for the rest of my life. And you literally can reboot right this very moment with that mindset of, I'm starting over. This is the rest of my life right now, okay? So what we did in the My Incredible Orbit community, we did part group sessions, and we also did a couple of really cool practical action exercises that I want to share with you. And these are things that you don't have to do right now, but they are typically things that we'll do in our community at the end of the year. But you can also do them at any point in time. You can do them after you just finish with a relationship, after you've just got out of a job, maybe you've got a career change. You could do it after you've had a birthday and you're starting a new orbit of like your birthing year, okay? So at any point in time that you realize, gosh, I want to reset, I want to do a reboot. And particularly if you've just come through a bit of a trying or hard period of time, then this is when you can potentially do one or even all of these things if you like, right? So I'm just going to take you through really briefly what we did in the community, and I did it all with our community members, and I know our members absolutely loved it. They got so much out of it. The first thing that we did was we looked at our relationship to the year 2020 because it knocked people sideways. And one of the things that we did was we wrote down, we had a double page spread, and we wrote down all the things that we felt about the year, any words that came up for us, any phrases that came up for us, even complete sentences. It could be a feeling or an emotion that we write down. We might even have, I remember one of the community members wrote down dark and gloomy, because that's the way that they felt at some point during the year. So there's no right or wrong answer for what you're going to put on your double page spread. And all I've got is, I've got a couple of art journals. This one's nearly full. So I've got a couple of art journals that I use specifically for these kinds of things. What you can do after you've done your list. So we just started off doing it together at the end of a group session. And then the idea was that you leave it open and you can come back to it at any point in time over the next, say, week, because you do want to put a finish date on it. Otherwise, we tend to not go back and complete things. We're a bit funny like that. So give yourself a completing date. And we wrote down here 2020 was the year of, and we wrote down any word that came up for us at all. And then over the week, we came back and we added to it. And it was interesting because everyone talked about how when they initially got things off their chest, that their feelings towards the year and their experience of the year started to really change and soften. So at the beginning, maybe what was going out on the list were things like hard or confusing or saddening or guilt or whatever it was. And then as I started to process, because remember we're doing group sessions as well, so there's a real shifting and releasing process that all my community members go through, but you might find the same thing within yourself as well. As you start to release, that your feelings about whatever it is that you're writing about starts to change as well, and you start to feel about it differently. You might start to even get some insights into it that you hadn't had before. And again, it doesn't have to be about a year or starting a new year. It can be about a relationship. It can be about a grief process that you're going through, some traumatic experience that you went through. Okay, so you can do this for absolutely anything, and it's a massive purging, resetting, rebooting, and then it realigns you process. So go through, give yourself a week, and then what we did is we built our top 10 list. So from all of these words and feelings and whatever, we picked out the top 10 words that really resonated with us as individuals. And then the next week, when we came together to do a group session and do our next piece of practical action, we looked at that list and did some specific, kind of like picking it apart, I suppose you'd say, and getting to the more core reasons of why those words meant what they meant to us as individuals. So that was very, very important. But you don't have to do the top 10 list if you don't want to. If you do, you might find that it actually starts to show you some patterns, that you get some realizations out of that. So that's that first one there that I wanted to show you. The second one was I did a meditation type of thing. Not everyone feels comfortable with meditation or even thinks that they're good with meditation, and there's a lot of stigma around that. So just go into a quiet space if you feel like you're not very good at meditating or can't hold the space for that. What I did was I went into a meditative / imagination space, reflective space, I suppose you could call it, and just sat with the year 2020. And I did this on December the 21st because that felt like, to me, the best date for me to be able to do that. And I was also very aware of a lot of other people around the world that were also doing meditations and using their imagination in really powerful ways to get insight. So what I did was I wrote down whatever came up for me as what I hear in my subtle sense of hearing, or what came up to me as feeling, as thoughts, as images, as pictures. I wrote it down almost like a bit of a story, and that's that one there. So it was almost like a reflection piece that I did for the year on that date. So you can also do that, and that can be incredibly insightful because it can give you insights into what you learned or what really meant a lot to you from that period of time. Or actually what we found came up were smaller, what seemed like more insignificant experiences that people went through, and they really weren't that insignificant at all. When they came to the surface, the person realized, wow, that really was a big piece for me. That actually affected me more than what I realized. Once you become the observer to something that was affecting you, then you also have the ability to be able to release that. Easy, right? So then that's that one there. The other one was, let me find it. I looked at, and I think I've lost one of my sticky notes, but I'll find it. I also went through all the things that I learned in 2020. Not only did I learn or I realized about myself personally in 2020, but also what I maybe recognized professionally or work-wise, business-wise, 2020. And I looked at it from the perspective of, what did I learn during that period of time that I can either integrate and take forward with me as learning, as wisdom, as knowledge, and or what can I take forward that I've learned and actually implement it. And what I realized that there is a lot that I'm not only going to be changing, and I've already started to make some of those significant changes, but that I'll be changing in my life both personally and also professionally as well. Huge changes. So this list was 2021 changes and inclusions. So things that I'm going to include into my life, and that comes from the whole experience of 2020 and doing those lists. Now, the other thing, and this is a really important one, so I am going to take the time to kind of look for it for a second here. Give me a moment, because I've got to work my way through my art journal. Now, the other one that I want to recommend that you do is you write a letter to, in this case, we're doing the year 2020, and I had done this before with a different year. I did it for the year 2008, if I remember correctly. 2008 was a particularly really tough year. It was just a whole sequence of events that really tried and tested me and kind of took me right to the brink of my existence multiple times. So there was an enormous amount of reconciliation that I needed to do with the things and the people and the experiences that I had in 2008. And for some reason, it was sticking with me that I associated it with the year. I kept saying to people, yeah, 2008 was a really shitty year. So what I needed to do was write a letter to the year 2008, almost like you're sitting on a park bench and it's your best friend and they're sitting beside you. And you start the letter off exactly the same as you would sitting next to this thing that tried you and tested you. And it might read something like, Dear 2008, boy, you really tested me. And then you go through and write whatever comes up for you that you feel like you need to convey, or you want to talk about, you want to express to that thing. So it could be to a person. It could be to the actual relationship that you've just got out of, right? It could be to a place where you lived. It could be to a particular house. It could be to a little neighborhood that you lived in. It might be to a city where you lived that you maybe are glad that you moved out of, that you don't want to see again, but you feel like you want to resolve that to be able to set yourself free so you can truly move on. So writing a letter is an extremely powerful process to go through. What I would recommend is that you take the time to do this, that you start it, but also don't have an agenda over what it's meant to look like. So it doesn't have to be a 5-page essay. It can be a short paragraph, or it can be a 5-page letter, depending on what feels right for you and what comes up. So just let it be whatever it needs to be. The other thing that I would suggest is do not censor yourself in any way, shape, or form. Whatever you need to say or want to say, and in whatever way that comes out, do that. Don't censor it. Don't judge what you want to say. Don't analyze it and go, oh, that's interesting, or oh, I probably shouldn't word it like that. Maybe if I word it like this, it would be better. Don't do any of that. Just let it all come out naturally as it's meant to come out. Then when it's finished, you'll know that it's finished. What I recommend that you do after you finish the letter is sit with it for a while and then feel into what you feel like is the best thing for you to do with that letter, okay? It might be that you leave it in your art journal. It could be that you bury it. You wrap it around a rock or a crystal or something and you bury it in the garden. I've actually had clients that have had to do that, and they said that it felt like a really amazing process to be able to send it down into the earth. I've also had some clients where they have done a little bit of a fire ceremony with it and they've burnt it, maybe celebrated with some champers or something like that. So go ahead and do that. And to give you a few different ideas on ways that you could use that, in my community, we've also done letters exactly the same to traumatic periods of time that people have been through, or relationships with things that they've been through. So when I say the word relationships, normally people think about people and the relationships we have with people. But we have relationships with literally thousands of things, right? So we have a relationship with money, and we have done that. In fact, every single year for the last few years at least, we've done a letter to our friend money. And that's really very powerfully working on the relationship with money. So maybe you kind of sitting there and you realize, gosh, you've gone through a really crappy period of time the last few years with money and finances. And now comes the time where you feel like you want to completely reset that. So what you could do is do a double-page spread of all the words or the feelings, the sayings that come up for you around your relationship with money. Then you could look at writing a letter to your friend money, as though you're sitting on the park bench with them. What would you say to money? And you've got to remember also in that letter, it's very, very important to express to whatever it is what you've learned. So thank you so much for teaching me whatever it is, and finishing it off with gratitude. Like, say thank you, thank you. Thank you for the experience. Thank you for teaching me. I'm going to take it forward. Then you can do your list about what you've learned and what you're then your inclusions list, so what you'll take forward with you and include from this moment forward. That way also when you've got it written down, you can come back to it at any point in time and look at where you are and if you're on track and if you need to make any adjustments and how you're going to do that. And quite often what I do with my lists is, my letter is eluding me. Quite often what I do with my lists is I take a screenshot of it and then I will make it my screensaver on my phone and on my desktop and my iPad and the whole lot, because if you want it to manifest, then you've got to be able to do it very, very powerful ways. Yeah, my letter does not want to come and surface right now, so for whatever reason it is eluding us. You get the drift though, you know what I'm talking about. If you have any questions at all, pop them into the comments. If you need to connect with me further, just email the office, info@jacquiemcintyre.com. If you want to perhaps do some deeper work and look at ways that we could potentially work together, all that information's on my website, jacquiemcintyre.com. And I look forward to seeing you really soon with some perhaps more ideas and different talking points to just get us into the space that we need to be to have the happiest, healthiest, and most loving lives that we possibly can. And thank you for joining me. Talk to you really soon. Bye for now.